The morning the sky turned red, no one knew what they were looking at. At first, it was beautiful streaks of amber light breaking through the high clouds, like dawn had come early. People stood in their driveways with coffee cups, snapping pictures. Hashtags were trending before the military even had time to issue a statement. But beauty doesn't linger when death follows it. The first pulse hit New York at 7:12 a.m. Eastern. A ripple of light crossed the Hudson, and everything electronic, from traffic lights to aircraft, died in an instant. Then came the sound, a low, guttural frequency that rattled windows and bones alike. Some said it sounded like 1,000 voices screaming backward. Others said it was the earth itself crying. By the time the second pulse struck, this time over Beijing, satellites began to fail. 3 minutes later, the president was evacuated from Andrews Air Force Base as reports poured in of organic entities emerging from impact zones, things that didn't make sense. Things that bled silver. Major Ethan Cole, 34, of the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, didn't have time to watch the news. He was already in the air, somewhere over the Atlantic, strapped into a CH-53 Super Stallion with 23 other Marines and a cargo hold full of fear. "You seeing this, sir?" asked Sergeant Riley Mendez, his second-in-command, tilting his helmet toward the window. Cole glanced out. The horizon looked torn, the kind of orange-red hue you see in wildfires, except this was thousands of miles wide. "Looks like hell opened up early," Mendez muttered. "Then we're heading straight for the gate," Cole replied. The transport hit turbulence so hard one of the crewmen lost his balance and slammed against the bulkhead. The pilot's voice cracked over comms. "Command says we're diverting to Iceland. Atlantic Command's lost contact with half the eastern seaboard." Cole leaned forward. "Lost contact, or lost everything?" "They didn't specify, sir." By the time they touched down on the black volcanic airstrip at Keflavik, the wind carried a metallic tang. Not salt. Not jet fuel. Something else. Something burned. The sky shimmered with a faint aurora, green and red, like the planet itself was bleeding light. Inside the command tent, screens flickered with static and half-translated data. Global communications were breaking down, but fragments of footage still got through, black shapes crawling over skyscrapers, streets warped by heat, soldiers firing into the dark only to vanish in bursts of ash. A shaken intelligence officer met Cole at the table. "Major Cole, sir. You're leading Operation Bastion. We don't have much, the entities are spreading fast, using some kind of bioelectric disruption field. Regular rounds slow them down, but..." He paused, running a trembling hand over his laptop. "They adapt. Fast." Cole studied the live feed. A squad in Warsaw was being overrun, a massive, spine creature tearing through APCs like tin cans. Its eyes glowed with something hateful. Not animal rage. Intelligence. "They came through the pulse sites?" Cole asked. "Yes, sir. 10 confirmed globally. The first one hit Manhattan. It's gone. Gone. One word. Millions of lives." Cole clenched his jaw. "So, we're fighting hell." "That's about right, Major." They deployed at 0300 hours local time, inserted into what used to be downtown Glasgow. The streets were warped, cars fused to asphalt, windows melted into black glass. The air smelled like ozone and rot. Every step echoed in the hollow ruins. Private Daniels, the youngest in the unit, whispered over comms. "Feels like the world ended yesterday." "It did," Mendez replied grimly. They advanced through the skeletal remains of a hospital, sweeping rooms that had become twisted with corrosion. A sound echoed, a faint clicking, like something pacing. Cole raised a fist. The squad froze. The sound grew closer. Then, from the ceiling, it dropped. It wasn't a creature in the usual sense, it was wrong. Too fluid, too angular, too alive in the wrong ways. It looked like liquid metal trying to imitate flesh. The thing's limbs bent the wrong direction. Its mouth, if that's what it was, opened horizontally. Cole's rifle barked 3 times, tearing through its torso. It screamed, an awful chorus of metallic shrieks, before collapsing in a pool of silver blood that fizzled into vapor. "Contact down," Cole said, voice steady. But inside, something else was stirring. "They're learning." Mendez kicked what was left of it. "No bones. No organs. You think these things came from the pulse, or caused it?" "Doesn't matter," Cole said. "Command says exterminate. We do our job." Hours later, back at the forward base, an encrypted message arrived from NORAD. It was short, barely decipherable through static. "Confirmed, extraterrestrial origin. Hive structures forming near pulse zones. Global command authorizing unrestricted response." Unrestricted. That meant only one thing: no more containment. Humanity was officially at war. The next morning, Cole stood before his unit as dawn tried to break through the ash-filled sky. The men were exhausted, eyes sunken, armor blackened. He could see the question behind every stare: "What's the point?" Cole raised his rifle. "You want to know what I think?" "They wanted to scare us. They think we're soft, distracted. They think we forgot what we're capable of when pushed." He looked around, his voice like gravel. "They unleashed hell. And hell is exactly what we'll give back." That day, across the world, the same shift happened. In shattered bunkers and ruined cities, humanity stopped running. Engineers turned collapsed refineries into weapons foundries. Drones were repurposed for close-quarters combat. Nations that hadn't spoken in decades began sharing intel. For the first time in history, humanity was united not by peace, but by rage. Cole stared up at the red sky, tightening his gloves. "Let's show them what nasty really means." And with that, the first counteroffensive began. The first counterstrike began under skies that looked more like old wounds than weather. A thick haze of crimson light stretched across the North Atlantic, turning the ocean into something that resembled molten steel. Every radar ping, every satellite sweep came back fractured. It wasn't just interference, it was intelligence. Something up there was jamming them deliberately. Major Ethan Cole stood on the deck of the USS Roosevelt, a floating fortress bristling with rail cannons and drone launchers. Around him, deck crews hustled beneath blaring klaxons, loading experimental ordnance stamped with black hazard symbols. "It's like prepping for a fight with the devil himself," Mendez said, watching technicians inject glowing blue cores into missile casings. Cole didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the northern horizon where a shimmering distortion was spreading, the same energy field that had gutted Manhattan. Within it, shapes moved, vast and slow, like something walking through fog on another plane. "Command says that's our target," said Mendez. "Pulse Site 7. Iceland. They call it a hive spire. Any word on what it is?" "Big. Hot. And alive." Cole exhaled. "Then we cut its heart out." The strike teams deployed just before dawn, descending through the storm in V-280 tilt rotors. Lightning flashed around them, illuminating the black silhouette of the hive spire, a structure like an obsidian mountain clawing its way into the clouds. Its surface pulsed with veins of orange light, as if magma ran through its skin. The closer they got, the more their instruments failed. Radios hissed with whispers, not interference, but something that sounded spoken. Words in no human language. "Ghost chatter again," Daniels muttered, gripping his rifle tighter. "Ignore it," Cole ordered. "It's not for you." They landed on a ridge overlooking the spire's perimeter. Below, the landscape was crawling, hundreds of the biomechanical creatures they'd seen before, moving in coordinated patterns like ants protecting their queen. Every few seconds, one of them would stop, tilt its head toward the sky, and shriek as if syncing with some invisible rhythm. "Jesus," Mendez breathed. "That's not an army, that's a system." "All systems have weak points," Cole replied. They advanced, weaving through shattered basalt and black ice. Cole's team carried prototype weapons, Gauss rifles with plasma cores, and canisters filled with nanite acid developed overnight by what was left of DARPA. The air shimmered around them with electromagnetic heat. When the first wave of creatures detected them, it didn't charge. It screamed. The sound hit like a physical force, rattling armor and making blood vessels twitch beneath the skin. Cole dropped to one knee, aiming down his scope. Light 'em up! The ridge exploded in flashes of blue. Gauss slugs tore through the advancing shapes, disintegrating their metallic flesh into clouds of sizzling vapor. But for every one that fell, two more appeared. The sky darkened as flying constructs like skeletal manta rays swooped down from the spire, dropping shards of burning glass that detonated on impact. "We're pinned!" Mendez shouted. "Requesting drone support." "Denied," said Command over the comms, their voice breaking with static. "Airspace unstable. You're on your own." Cole looked around. Daniels was down, leg torn open but still firing. Private Holloway was screaming something about the light changing, his visor flickering with ghostly images. The air itself seemed alive, rippling in waves that made distance impossible to gauge. Then it happened, the ground beneath them moved. The spire shifted, tilting slightly, as if the earth itself was inhaling. Black tendrils extended outward from its base, coiling like vines toward their position. Cole knew instinctively they weren't meant to fight it here. This thing wasn't a fortress, it was a being. "Fall back," he barked. "Now!" They retreated up the slope, firing suppressive bursts. Mendez threw a thermal grenade that ignited the tendrils long enough for the squad to reach the extraction ridge. The evacuation wasn't coming. The tilt rotors had been shot down, smoking debris littered the cliffs. They were trapped. Cole checked his map, the backup beacon showed an old NATO bunker 3 clicks west. They moved fast, dragging Daniels between them, navigating through the toxic haze. The world around them looked flayed, trees melted into obsidian shapes, the ground cracked and steaming. By the time they reached the bunker, they'd lost 2 men. Holloway had been taken by the tendrils. His last scream still echoed in Cole's ears. Inside, the bunker lights flickered weakly. There was power, barely. Mendez collapsed against a console. "We're cut off. Command's gone dark." Cole knelt beside Daniels, applying a pressure seal to his leg. "You're gonna make it, Marine." Daniels gritted his teeth. "Sir, that spire, it was breathing. I swear I saw eyes in the stone." Cole looked up at the flickering monitor. The feed displayed heat signatures, thousands of them, converging. He didn't answer. Because he knew Daniels wasn't hallucinating. Hours later, as the squad tried to rest, the base radio crackled. "Major Cole, do you copy?" Cole grabbed the handset. "Go ahead. This is Strategic Command. Bastion Primary has failed. Spires are converging. But we've located a control signal, a central node near the Arctic Circle. You're the closest active unit." Cole blinked. "You're telling me we're it?" "Affirmative. If you can reach the node, we can coordinate a global strike. Otherwise..." The voice trailed off into static. Cole set the radio down slowly. "Otherwise we lose the planet," Mendez finished for him. Cole nodded. "Gear up. We're not dying in this hole." By nightfall, the team had scavenged everything they could: power cells, explosives, thermal cloaks. The wind outside roared like a living thing, carrying faint echoes of metallic roars. As they prepared to move, Daniels looked at Cole. "Sir, you think we can win this?" Cole met his gaze. "I think we've never really fought until now." Outside, the spire pulsed again, sending another wave of energy rippling through the clouds. The aurora above twisted, forming a spiral, not random, but patterned. A symbol. Mendez followed Cole's gaze upward. "You seeing that?" Cole's voice was barely a whisper. "Yeah. And I think it's looking back." They moved out into the storm, heading north through a world turned unrecognizable. The mission was simple: reach the Arctic, find the source, and give humanity a chance to strike back. But none of them knew that the real enemy wasn't waiting above, it was already inside the planet, and it was listening. The Arctic was never meant for life. Now, it wasn't just cold, it was dead. The wind that once howled like a living thing was silent. The snow didn't fall, it drifted sideways in thin, glowing sheets. The aurora had frozen in the sky, locked into a perfect ring of crimson that never moved, never faded. Major Ethan Cole led what remained of his squad through the wasteland, 4 men and a wounded soldier dragging themselves across the ice. Their HUDs flickered intermittently, sensors failing in the electromagnetic storm. The ground trembled every few minutes, like something beneath it was trying to wake up. "Command said there was a control node here," said Sergeant Mendez, his voice muffled by the rebreather mask. "Yeah," Cole replied, scanning the horizon. "Question is, who's controlling who?" They crested a ridge and saw it, a dome of black crystal half buried in the ice, pulsing with orange veins. Lightning crawled across its surface like veins of molten metal. Around it stood massive constructs, guardians made of the same biomechanical material they'd fought before, kneeling in a ring as if in worship. Private Daniels, pale and exhausted, muttered, "You sure this isn't hell?" Cole smirked faintly. "If it is, we finally found the throne room." They took shelter behind a ridge, unpacking their last explosives, shaped plasma charges and a single railcore warhead designed to punch through a bunker. The plan was suicidal but simple: get inside, find the core, and detonate. "Sir," said Mendez, glancing at the readings on his wrist pad. "This dome isn't alien tech. It's fused into the crust. The energy signature, it's coming from below the mantle." "You're saying it's not a ship?" "No, sir. It's a vein. Whatever these things are, they've been in the planet all along." Cole's breath fogged in the cold. "They didn't invade us. We woke them up." The thought landed heavier than the snow around them. Mankind hadn't been attacked from the stars, Earth itself had cracked open, birthing what lay dormant beneath. The pulse wasn't an invasion. It was a release. Night fell without warning, though the light never truly changed. They moved in silently, weaving through the shadow of the guardian constructs. Their motion sensors were useless. The things weren't moving, they were listening. Cole led them to the base of the dome, where the crystal pulsed like a heartbeat. Each rhythm seemed to sync with their own, speeding, slowing, responding. "Charges set," he whispered. "All 5. We blow it, we collapse the node," Mendez confirmed. As Cole prepared the detonator, Daniels froze, his helmet turning slowly toward the dome. "Sir, it's speaking." Cole frowned. "What?" "In the comms. Not static. It's..." Before he could finish, the dome cracked open. A column of light erupted upward, spiraling into the clouds. The Guardians rose in unison, their eyes flaring with molten gold. And from within the light, a voice filled the air, not through speakers, but inside their skulls. "You were made from our dust. You built your world on our bones. Now the cycle returns." The squad reeled as the ground split open, revealing layers of obsidian lattice beneath the ice. A shape emerged, towering, humanoid in outline but made of liquid geometry, constantly shifting. It stood 30 feet tall, its body radiating heat and hate in equal measure. Mendez fired first. The creature caught the round midair and turned it back. The blast sent 2 men tumbling across the ice. Cole scrambled behind a ridge, gripping his calm. "This is Major Cole to command. We've made contact with the primary entity. It's sentient. Static. No response." The planet itself drowned out the signal. Daniel screamed as a tendril of molten metal wrapped around his leg, pulling him toward the light. Cole grabbed him, firing his sidearm point-blank into the appendage until it severed, splattering silver blood across the ice. "Sir, if it's from the planet, how do we kill it?" Daniels gasped. "We remind it who runs it now." Cole sprinted toward the warhead crate, bullets of plasma streaking past. He slammed the detonator into manual override, setting a 2-minute countdown. "We're finishing this the hard way." Mendez caught up, blood streaming down his arm. "You're not making it out if you arm that." "Wasn't planning to." For a moment, the 2 men just looked at each other, 2 soldiers who'd fought too long, too far from anything human. Mendez nodded once, silently, then turned to cover Cole as he sprinted toward the core. The creature roared, a sound like tectonic plates grinding. Its massive hand came down, striking the ice and sending a shockwave that shattered the ridge. Cole stumbled, falling hard, but crawled forward, dragging the warhead with him. Every second hurt. The air was so charged it burned his lungs. But he kept moving. He reached the fissure at the dome's base and saw it, the core. A sphere of blinding light beating like a heart. It wasn't mechanical. It was alive. He planted the warhead against it and pressed his hand to the trigger. The voice came again, this time, almost pleading. We are the architects. We made your world. Why do you destroy what birthed you? Cole's face twisted with fury. Because you forgot humans bite back. He hit the trigger. The explosion didn't sound like one. It was silent, then the world inverted. The light consumed everything, the ice, the spire, the creature, even the sky. Cole felt himself lifted, dissolved, burned, erased. Yet through it all, he heard one thing, a heartbeat. Not alien. Human. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on the snow. The sky was blue. Real blue. The aurora was gone. The air smelled clean. Nearby, Mendez was sitting upright, dazed. The dome was gone, melted into a crater of glass. In the distance, radio chatter crackled to life for the first time in days. Repeat, all spires are collapsing. Global seismic activity stabilizing. It's over, it's over. Cole smiled weakly, blood freezing on his lips. Told you, he rasped. We bite back. Mendez let out a hoarse laugh. You realize we just nuked the planet's skeleton, right? Yeah, Cole said, staring at the dawn rising over the ice. Guess it was time Earth got a new spine. In the weeks that followed, humanity rebuilt from the ashes. The world had changed, the pulse had rewritten parts of the atmosphere, leaving streaks of permanent aurora over the poles. But the creatures were gone. The spires had melted into lifeless crystal. When the surviving nations re-established contact, a single transmission from the Arctic was broadcast across every channel, Cole's voice, recorded before the detonation. They unleashed hell. Thought they'd see us break. But humans? We get nasty. We survive. Always. That message became known as the Bastion Oath, the creed of the New Earth Defense Accord. And somewhere deep beneath the ice, in the dark where the old things slept, a faint heartbeat still echoed, not alien, not human, but both. Waiting.